This is a good point, and interesting one also, because if we look upon this, like they say that you actually sit down, turn on the TV, and think that you're going to get being able to look at the real world or whatever. You turn on whatever news channel you pick, and what we're being fed there is also a very a highly negative image in that way, in order to push us towards this limit that we're talking about, that people are going to be so depressed by the news, all the bad news that is out there. So I mean, again, this is potentially then not about, okay, I'm not gonna turn away from it all, but I also might not want to sit down and chew through all the news channels in order to deal with the dark side of what is going on.
Right. You have to know enough about what's going on outside in order to see the trend as to what to resist. What to rebel against. You have to know that this is false. You have to use your reason. And if you're a rational person, you will observe what kind of cocktail of lies, and so on, is being sent to you through these oracles, and you must learn how to become immune to them. Take them in small doses, see what's going on, and realize what's happening, and not lose your center. And again, like Jung said, all the psychologists of merit are telling you, don't fear to look at your so-called dark side. It's not a dark side at all. It's another aspect of you you've been trained to think is a dark side. Now granted, as we've said in previous programs, some primal wound, very legitimate, may have prevented you, from dealing with it, because you've suffered legitimate pain, and the natural reaction is to block that, so you don't feel it anymore. Granted. But when you realize the consequences of you doing that permanently, that is pathological, and once you realize that a schizophrenic mind is what creates a schizogenic society, that a toxic mind creates a toxic society, pathogenic mind creates a pathogenic society, pathological mind creating a pathogenic society, then you know that you cannot afford to do that. You take responsibility, and you start to go through a different kind of process in which you reevaluate your pain and your suffering and the stuff that's happening to you, and you don't give birth, to this Frankensteinian world because you just want to be an escapism. But I know that my words are not being heard by 90% of the world. That's just a plain fact. They haven't listened to teachers far, far greater and more eloquent than I am. So I believe then that we need to get around that. We need to understand, as painful as it is, and I think that this plutonic action is trying to demand that of us, is to not be concerned then that most of the world is not going to get it. It's not our responsibility anyway. It's not. We have a dedication to truth and justice, not the human beings. This is a mistake. Because we don't know who these people are and what the karma they are here for on this planet. And if they make these choices, that's their perfect right to make these choices. You don't have the right to join political parties to try and change things like this. All you have the right to do is change yourself. And then you may want to guide others, but you cannot walk the road for them.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, see, I am a believer that nobody's enforcing any type of technotronic world on us. We are asking for it. Everything that happens in this world is the human race in some way, on some subliminal level, demanding it. And I don't care if that's death in fauna, or the earth changes, or the climate changes. And like we said on previous shows, how incredibly brilliantly they're trying to now insist that climate change is what you need to be focused on. Not a word about consciousness, not a word about psychology, not a word about the Reichian theory that even the weather is controlled by human consciousness. That's where I want to go. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear Bruce Lipton. I want to hear the Jungians and the Reichians talking, because they educate us. They show you that you are, like the Native American Indian shaman shows you, you are part of a web of life. Your very thoughts change the positive and negative ionization of the world, let alone your own DNA and your own body. But now Big Brother in his white coat, or these Mr. Greys, these grey men, are going, no. We have a stamp on your DNA. If you look very close, you'll see our welcome stamp. Glaxo own you. DuPont, don't you see that? We're gonna get in the way of you and your DNA. They're not interested in your damn DNA. They got the $1 billion to do whatever they want. They're interested in your consciousness. This is just the backdoor route, in which they're gonna again have you. It's a ritual. It's an incredible Templar ritual in which you put your own DNA, basically your own consciousness, on their ashlar, on their altar. This is the way it was in day one. These guys are old geneticists from thousands of years back. Can people handle that? They may be on their way to be digging up their own masters in the Iraqi deserts, and we're into some pretty heavy sorcery. into some pretty heavy necromancy here. And they don't mind putting you on the altar of sacrifice to do that. They've had caduceuses and serpents and staffs, symbols going back for thousands of years. You think this is new? Again, I emphasize the study of the symbolism and the words that these companies use will tell you all there needs to know.
That's right. It's incredible. And you know, Michael, I think that is a great place to begin to round things up for this time. And you know, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure and you know, absolutely fascinating to have you on. So thank you, Michael. It's always great. And before we round things up, of course, I want to leave the last few minutes. You can tell us about your website and of course your books and your excellent DVDs here.